All right, everybody, welcome back again to OnCycle. We have another great episode for you guys today. It's been about a month since we've seen you all, so we thought, being that it was about 8 weeks out from the beginning of training camp and the big part of the season, we take some time out and talk about something that's really near and dear to Robbie and I's heart. That's right, a little bit of the physical fitness portion of the activity and kind of how we prepare and how we train and kind of how we get into things.
You're right. I mean, we're 8 weeks out, right, is pretty much the latest that you can start training and really see like a lot of really good improvements. Yeah. That's not to say you shouldn't start training. If you delay until 3 weeks out from spring training, you should still start, right? Any amount is good, but like this 8 weeks, roughly 2 months is right around the time where you can really see some pretty sizable improvements and changes to your physical capacity and health.
Yep. There's never a bad time to start. However, this, I think, is probably the prime area to start. Maybe 30 days before this, but I think right now is a really great time to get into it.
Right, the best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yeah, correct. Right? Exactly. So before we do that, let's get to some housekeeping things. So for those of you who don't know, we are moving into our second season, and one of the things that's happening today is March 31st, we are finalizing our scholarship process and applications. That's what it is. Finalizing our scholarship applicants. For those of you who may not know that we have a $500 scholarship out there for the world-class course, and we have a $250 scholarship out there for the world-class course. That is all thanks to you just coming here and just watching our content. We donate 50% of everything that we earn here on the channel and other social media platforms right into a big pot of money to be able to give it out. Last year, we spent 6 months actually monetizing and making some of those things, and we ended up with $750. Not only that, we have a Patreon that helps support that effort as well. So in case you haven't gone to our Patreon yet, you can go here and donate as little as $5 a month or as much as $50 a month. And if you become a member there, you become part of our board of directors who gets to decide and read all the applicants that apply and kind of decide who's eligible and who's worthy of the scholarship that we're going to give out in the next probably in the next 4 weeks. I think we'll announce the person sometime in mid-April timeframe. So,
yeah, right. There's the recipients of the 500 and the 251.
Yep.
Right. So if you want to help out with that, right, and contribute to giving back to the drum corps community, as we love doing here, then do all the usual stuff, right? Keep watching, keep sharing, keep subscribing, keep hyping up, right? Use that the hype button because we're a smaller channel. And if you are feeling generous enough and can swing it, the Patreon is the most direct way to add the most amount of money into those scholarship funds, which will, again, probably be even bigger next year because, like you said, we were only monetized for half of last year.
Yep. And this year we're monetized for the whole entire year. We're making a little bit of scratches coming in. It's going to help support the community that we know and love. So again, share, send it around. And this is a great episode to go send to your friends because
you're like, hey, get off the couch, go lift some weights, let's go for a run.
Exactly. So
get fit so you can go march wherever you're marching.
Exactly.
With that OnCycle scholarship that you're going to get.
Darn Skippy, right? So that being said, let's get into it. Let's talk about one of the things that are near and dear. Robbie and I are been kind of talking in the off season. We talk a lot because physical fitness is something that's pretty near and dear to our heart. We train, we work out pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And, getting into the necessities of what you need moving into the drum corps season, right? What is it that will really benefit you the most to get the most bang for your buck before we go into the year? And kind of, we've been doing this for 30 years now combined between the two of us.
Yeah.
And that's not 30 years total. That's
30, as observers or over time or
instructors or these crazy people that want to tell you what to do. We are in the trenches. We are hurt. We have banged up knees and bad backs and everything
30 years on dirt, on turf, marching.
Getting it done.
And having to deal with the physical demands that come of that,
right. Yeah.
And I think both of us, over those 30 years, combined, also going through very different levels of physical preparedness and fitness. I started off as a little 17-year-old that didn't know what was going on, and I've had years where I came in much less fit, and much less used to running around than usual, and years where I've come in and I've done the nice preparation, and I feel way better once we actually start.
Exactly, and I've done 10 years, and now almost on the tiny horn, and 10 years on the big horn. So, and as a child and as a 40-year-old, so there's a lot of different. I think we have a lot of experience and some great tips and tricks to kind of offer to the community. So in case you were wondering if whether or not you should be listening to us.
Those are our credentials.
Yeah. So we're going to let you know what's going on. So we've decided that we're going to kind of break this thing down into like 2 categories and then 2 subcategories into that.
Yeah.
Number 1 being the physical fitness portion of things, and then kind of the nutrition, like it's what your body is doing and then what you're putting into your body.
How you feeling it.
Right, how you feeling it. And then the physical fitness thing, which is where we're going to kind of start, is the kind of strength training associated with preparing yourself and the cardiovascular training that's associated with preparing yourself. So Robbie and I are big gym heads, so we're going to start with getting big.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
The strength
Let's
part
go.
of
The
it.
strength part of it. So we were talking earlier, and I want to know if you had to give one exercise, one concept, one idea, this is what you should work on to a new member who's getting ready to go on tour for the first time or coming to drum corps. Where do you focus your attention on first? Do you have one exercise to give them? What is it that you do?
Yeah, this one's a tricky one, right? Because drum corps is such a full body experience, right? But my first instinct, and disclaimer on this, for a lot of this stuff, we're going to be pretty horn focused.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good sort of a strength training exercise for anyone who's marching, really. Drum corps and the choreography and movement that we have to do is so demanding on the whole body, but especially the lower body. So my immediate first thought with, if I just had to do one exercise, would be some kind of like weighted squat.
Okay.
Right. So because, my quads were on fire all of tour, right? All the plies that we do, all the running around, right? Lunges and all the different level changes of choreography. Having, if you're on tour, sometimes having to go right down to the ground, get right back up. That's a lot of, explosive strength and power in your legs that a lot of us are not used to, right? I say on tour, I didn't actually lose any pounds of weight, even though I slimmed down, because I think I was just gaining muscle in my legs and putting them on there, right? So some kind of weighted squat, it's one of those great exercises, especially if you weight it a little bit. You don't have to load up a barbell 300 pounds or something, right? But some dumbbells or like one of those like lighter weight barbells, or just like milk jugs or anything that you've got, anything that will like give a little bit of weight resistance, makes it so that it's not only a movement that engages all of your lower body, your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your lower back,
Core,
right? Your core. But if you're holding on to a little bit of something extra, heck, a backpack full of textbooks, just like, on top of your shoulders or something, right? That then sort of triggers a little bit of engagement from all the rest of your body in a way that I think is really, beneficial from just building strength from the ground up.
Yeah, it's great. Another one too, we used to do this thing in the Army, it's called the Y squat. And you just,
why?
You just put your arms up in the air and then you squat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a stability exercise for the shoulders. And
That's
it's really
a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just to be a pain.
Yeah.
Because it sucks.
Yeah. The other one I thought of was burpees. If you have no way, because especially if you got a push up into there, because then it's really getting all of the
you're doing
explosive powder. Explosive power.
Explosive powder. Look out.
Explosive power. And a little bit of upper body as well.
Cool. I mean, I think that's great. And I could say from a person who's a little bit older who spends very little time working on their legs other than just to do that. My height.
Could be me.
Yeah, my height kind of like, I always have a hard time building muscle in my legs. So I kind of tend to stay with it. And I'm pretty strong there to begin with too. But I will say that one of the things that starts to go for me at my age, for all agers out there, is my legs first. That's really what starts to suffer the most, just because of fatigue. And age, there's the quadriceps and the hamstrings are two of the biggest muscles in the body, and they are taxed and used pretty frequently. So anything you can do to kind of help prepare yourself in that regard. And that's, like Robbie said, just a simple squatting up and down, sitting off. You can stand next to the couch, sit down on the couch and stand back up again, like 50 times. And that's going to start to begin to build a lot of muscle group from that. So, and another disclaimer too, for all these tips that we're kind of throwing out there, we're not trying to say that you have to go to the gym. We want to do some gym concept stuff, but we also want to do very much like hey, you don't have a gym membership, nor do you want one.
We can do it at home.
Yeah, let's talk about things we can do for free on our own time, right? Doing those things.
Yeah, either with body weight or just by being a little bit resourceful about the resources that we have on hand.
Exactly. So, so I think the squat thing is great. So
yeah, what's yours?
This is and I ask you this question specifically so I can give my answer.
Of course, that's 90% of podcast interviews.
Right, exactly. Let me lead you into where I want to go. I think one of the absolute most useful exercises that you can do. That's one of the most overlooked things that you don't really spend a lot of time on before you go into season, specifically as a horn player, is grip strength and things like farmer's carries. If I had to give you one exercise to go out there and do, to just go, it's super easy. It doesn't require much. You're just walking, right? And you're holding
find
things.
anything heavy to hold on to.
Right. So farmer's carries are basically you're just putting equal weight in each hand, and you're going to go and you're going to carry that for a distance, whatever that distance is, right? I recommend somewhere between 50 and 100 yards. You should make it a good distance. It should be difficult to do, right? And all you're doing is doing that maybe 5 to 10 times. You know, you walk whatever distance you can. And if you have a football field or an outside that you have a significant distance, I say hold on to whatever you have and walk as far as you can, right? And then when you have to stop, right? Put it down,
Right.
shake your hands out, give yourself a second, pick it back up and walk back the other way as far as you can again, and see if you can do it 10 times, right? You should be able to do about 100 yards at a reasonable weight, right?
Yeah.
What's a reasonable weight? If you've never done things like this before, you should be doing at a bare minimum, an absolute bare minimum. You should be doing whatever your horn is. If you're a baritone player, you should be carrying 7 to 10 pounds. If you're a trumpet
hand.
per hand,
Ideally.
Yeah. If you're a trumpet player, you should be
Overtraining a bit, right? I mean,
I would say you should be doing nothing less than 10 pounds. Because at that point, it kind of is pointless, right?
Yeah.
Tuba players, sorry, boys and girls, like trust me, I know this is one of the biggest things I wish I knew when I was my first 10 seasons of drum corps playing tuba, because that was one of the first things that you really struggle with as a young tuba player is, can I physically just carry the horn everywhere I have to freaking go? Right. And that's what this is. It's basically picking something up and just walking with it. Some of the cheaper things in tubas, you should be doing 27 to 30 pounds, somewhere in that volume range. One of the things I think, again, for people maybe don't have enough money to go to the gym and do whatever else, it's always like, well, I don't have a 30-pound, rather than going and spending $70 on 30-pound weights, go to Home Depot, Lowe's, get one of the Homer buckets, the big 5-gallon water buckets, and they're like $3 to $4 a piece.
Yeah,
so it's
super
$8.
cheap.
And then you can fill them up with whatever weight you want, right? So, and you
it was just water.
Yeah, you put a scale.
Water's heavy.
Yeah, water.
If you didn't know.
5 pounds of water, gets you up around the 30, 40 pound range, and so you can end up doing a lot with just a little bit, and then you can adjust that weight. It becomes an adjustable weight thing too. And
Fill it up halfway, and you got a good 15 pounds or something.
Right, you can put a big rock in there. If you can find 2 rocks that feel the same, whatever it is. I like water specifically too, because what it does is it sloshes while you're walking, and as you get more fatigued, it starts to slosh more. And what that does is it helps you build hip strength, right, from stability, from walking back and forth.
Yeah, forces you to hold them a little more stable.
Yep, a little more, and you're going to want to
your
hold
marching
them stable.
technique with them.
Yeah, right. You can even roll step with it. I mean, who knows? I wouldn't do that.
Do a little jazz run with it.
I wouldn't do any of that. But
if you can jazz run, you're probably not farmers walking with enough weight.
Yeah, you definitely need to put a little bit more weight in your hands. But yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. And and this is a cool little trick for you too. If you those handles are really small, so if you just get a roll of duct tape, you can just keep rolling the duct tape on the handle until you get to the width of the grip that you want. So that way you can kind of do that. And the duct tape ends up being a little squishy. So it's a little more comfortable for the hands. And you want it to be a little bit bigger for the hand, because that's how you build the strength in your hand. You can't, it just a little one, you ends up cutting off circulation on your
you
fingers.
Get around the width of like a barbell or a dumbbell grip, right? That'll actually help you train that grip strength, get those forearm strength. And again, right, it's one of those exercises that it just applies weight to your entire frame.
Yes,
so it builds up a lot of other muscles, passively,
right?
Even if they're not like the main thing that's being trained, like grip strength,
right?
Helps with your legs and your all your core and back muscles as you're stabilizing your traps, your shoulders, and all that good stuff.
I did them today at the gym, and I thought I was going to die. And I was like, I haven't done, because I would do like 100-pound weights, but I would only go like 25 to 30 yards, and then I'd put them down and do that. I was doing like a 100-yard walk today, and so I was like, I'll go down to 50s, and I was like, oh, I'm going to drop these, and I almost didn't make it back to like where I was trying to go to. Yeah. I was like, oh, and I jumped up to 55, and in each hand. So it's, you got to work within your range. And I did 55s, and I was like, I'm going to do 45s for my last set, because I was really, my hands were hurting. They were bothering me, right? And, for those of you out there who don't know, like, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm a 6'3" and 250 pounds. So this is not a huge weight for me. I can move 120 pound dumbbells relatively easy for somebody, like it's my size. So 50 pounds is not really heavy, but over time it becomes very heavy.
Yep.
So it is a taxing thing. So, I think those are the best things to do.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you were more lower body and I was kind of a little more upper body, but we're still lower body, I think, because you're walking a lot with mine. Too.
Yeah. Right. And both things, right? Stuff that puts weight on your full frame to try and build everything. So luckily, we most of the time are not restricted to only actually one exercise ever. Right.
You're right. So,
whenever we're talking about, whenever people discuss fitness in drum corps, I think everyone knows that cardio is helpful.
Sure.
Because we're running and we run in the show and we move around. And so running and moving around and getting your heart rate up and whatnot and being, that aerobic training, everyone knows that's kind of helpful. I think oftentimes weightlifting gets neglected, but I think if anything, it's as if not more important than training your cardio. Right?
I think
if you train it in the right way.
I think it's the most important. I think it's the most important because it's the most effective to what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And your cardio endurance, first of all, will generally get better if you're doing the right weight training, even without training it directly.
Yep.
And secondly, building up muscle and a strong frame and a higher strength capacity before the season is good because you're going to be getting cardio endurance from just the season itself.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no choice but to get cardio endurance.
Right.
Whereas it's hard, I think a little bit harder to build up more strength during the season through weight resistance training because you're not doing any of that.
Right.
You're just all doing functional stuff by the time you actually get to tour.
Right. And that's why I think that strength training is the most important thing before tour because for a lot of reasons. So number one, we were talking about this before, and I think about this every year, is that I think you should start tour heavier than you should be, right? You should be either with
Err
muscle.
on the side of being heavier with muscle.
Yes. Right.
Or rather than being under.
Or even just heavier, if you're carrying a little extra, fat pounds, I think that's okay too. Because you're going to lose that weight. Your caloric responsibility daily on a tour or even on a weekend activity is significant. It's extremely significant.
Yeah. It would be very hard to out-eat the amount of energy that you're spending.
Listen, I'm a tank and I can't do that.
Yeah,
it's almost impossible.
I was eating 4,000 calories a day on tour, and I was still easily outputting more than that.
Yeah, 100. You're probably outputting somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 calories a day on tour, which is insane. It's crazy. So there's that part of it too. You don't have the ability to really work out physically, with weight or anything else before you go on tour.
Yeah,
and
some people did. I remember hearing people at Blue Coats or something would hit the weight room at the spring training place that they're at.
Madmen.
Insane. I mean, hey, it must be working for them.
Yeah, I guess.
I just couldn't imagine doing that.
I mean, maybe when I was 20, I'd probably do that, but
screw that.
I could barely walk at the end of the day half the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting ready, strength training is something that larger muscles is like anything else. You can have the cardio, you ever push a big ball around or heavy weight, or you have to, or maybe move a big log or I don't know, a big rock or whatever. You're just doing some yard work or whatever. It wears on the cardiovascular system and your breathing if that's really, really heavy and you're struggling to push that. Versus if you were a little bit stronger, you could just push it and it wouldn't wear as much on the cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
So just the idea that you are stronger in body is going to help you move your frame, move your instrument, move everything around with a much less stress on the body because you are because you're stronger now.
Or just think about, we've all seen how much choreography and specialized movement there is for everyone, including Hornline. And, we can see it in newer members when they're physically not as strong. They have some trouble making movements snappy and decisive, right? Or going into a plie and holding that nice and solid for a good amount of time, right? That's all stuff that's based on your muscular strength and your amount of control and sort of explosive output,
right?
And it's harder to make it look good, right? And you're using more energy to make it look good when you're weaker.
Correct, 100%. So now we're talking so obviously strength is what we're kind of focusing on here. I think talking about the big muscle groups, there's just so many tertiary muscle groups, but the big muscle groups to focus on. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I love talking about this all the time. The biggest misconception all the time, especially with horn players, is that
especially for tuba, low brass players,
low brass, right? Because we have big heavy instruments down there. is that I can't. I'm sore at the end of the day. I can't hold my horn, so I need to go to the gym and I need to work arms. Right? I need to do triceps and biceps. That's going to make me stronger. Wrong. Arms. I'll just say this right now is the absolute last thing on my workout routine when it comes to like preparing for the season. It's my last thing. I could care less. I mean, I care about my arms out of vanity because I'm a guy.
Yeah, arm day is important for the ego.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's functionally, it's worthless. Not worthless, but it's definitely very, very low.
Definitely the lowest of the large muscle groups.
It's F scale or D scale when they do all those scale things nowadays. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you see people and they're like, oh, I'm going to be marching youth this year, so they go and they start doing curls at the gym. Basically completely useless.
Yeah, you're not going to use any of those. You're not going to use those muscles even as a third level of a muscle group. They might be the fourth in the line of muscles you should be using for that.
Not to say you can't train them, but that's not what you should be focusing on if your goal is being able to hold the horn up. Yeah. So let's talk about what it takes to hold the horn up.
What is it actually doing, right? Yeah. So what's your number one muscle group that you think about when you go, this is what I have to be strong in to be able to carry my horn? You're a baritone player. Yeah. That sounds terrible. Yeah. And I don't want to do that ever.
On a dynasty baritone. I've got a number one muscle group and a number two.
Okay.
Right? So number one is your deltoids.
Okay.
Your shoulder muscles, right? These guys right here.
Right.
Because what's happening when you're holding a horn up is you're not curling it or pressing it, which would be biceps or triceps respectively.
Right.
Right? You're holding it up here, right? And you're keeping this part of your arm elevated, as your horn is up. Right, so that's really your front deltoids right there. So that's muscle group number one, and muscle group number two that you feel if you've had a long rehearsal day and you've been taught right posture. I'm sure lots of you have felt that is your upper back.
Darn right. Live, laugh, big back, baby. Let's go.
Those are the ones that are always the most sore for me after a long day, because that's the thing that keeps your posture upright. And if you relax your back muscles, you just kind of collapse forward, right? And we don't want to do that. We want to keep nice and back and elevated. And so all those, they're not really pulling and not directly supporting the weight in the way that your deltoids are, but they're keeping everything pulled back and taut and, looking nice. And so they're being constantly worked at a very low level for a very long period of time.
And they are, I think, one of the muscle groups that tend to get abused when your other muscle groups get tired. And they're like, because they are large, your back is very large, right?
Yeah.
And it supports all of you, obviously. So as your shoulders get tired, you start to see this start to happen, right? You start to see the shoulders creep up and moving, and all back. This pinches the back, and you start to use the upper lats and all these other different things. So having strong back and having strong shoulders, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
That's for tuba playing, for baritone playing, for horn playing in general. You have to work on shoulder, I would say deltoids, shoulders, and your back. But I'm a big proponent. Mine would be reversed. I would be back first and shoulders second.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
I think that's also that my personal priorities are probably also that as well, because I think you and I have fairly strong shoulders.
Yeah.
So the back posture muscles are what. And even we have pretty strong backs as well, but because it's a different kind of
it's a different
kind of stress on it.
Right.
Those are the ones that get more sore for us.
Absolutely.
Whereas a smaller person, if you say haven't played youth before and you're like, oh god, I have to hold youth, right? They might put more emphasis, on deltoids, just to be able to hold it up for a long period in general.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
although youth is also doubly important for back because it's so far away and so leveraged.
All the weight's so far away from you. Yeah. So before we continue on to all the different exercises, because I think
a few good actual
really things. But I think a disclaimer is that you need to, as you're listening to this, you need to make sure that you are understanding that everybody is different and everybody has different body style. Everybody's carrying a different instrument. What we're telling you is that these are very general ideas, and if you're weak in one of these categories, that you need to. There's maybe things you need to focus on, and if you're pretty strong in those, then you can. I don't want to say ignore it, but go, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm pretty good there. So there's some other things you want to work on.
If you're like if you're like a pretty big dude and you throw around the tuba, no problem. Yeah, you probably don't have to work on your upper body quite as much.
Right. Exactly.
Right. But maybe then instead you should be focusing more on the upper back or some core stuff. Right. Self-assessment and self-awareness. So we'll probably talk about this a bit later. Is one of the most important tools in physical fitness, and one of the most important things you can do when you're getting fit these next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So let's move into exercise. You want to start with shoulders? I think that's a good one. Yeah.
This one, I think there's
Do a couple.
Yeah, right. Deltoids have a front, a side, and a rear, head to them. And exercises that target all of them. The main one that's working when you're holding up a horn is really like your front deltoids.
Right.
And so I think the absolute best, if you're going to work an exercise for it, besides just holding your horn up, right, is lateral front raises. Where you get dumbbells, usually pretty lightweight.
Yep.
I mean, I'm talking like even we use like 10 or 15.
Yeah,
right?
I don't go much more than 15.
Yeah, right. Get fives or 7.5s or 10s or something. And it's just like arms are straight down in front of you, and you bring them straight up right out in front of you so that they're basically, in line with your shoulders.
Yeah.
Just do that, right? And that, right, because that gets that lifting motion that in those muscles that you feel start to get tired.
Yeah. It's important too that know that you don't have to be totally, you should be like any exercise, you should not be completely locked out. There should be a slight bend in the elbow.
Yeah.
So
almost
that,
like a dancer's bend a little bit.
Yeah. They don't get that like good first position kind of thing, right? But like you should be lifting the weight in a way that is targeting the muscle group that you're trying to emphasize, right? That outside deltoid. Those are really good too. And also the position of your hands matters kind of what you're working as well too. So if your hands are facing this way and you're lifting this way, it's moving slightly different muscle groups if you're doing it this way, right? So I'm a big proponent of drop sets when it comes to this. I like doing I'll pick up a plate, like a 45-pound plate. I'll do 10 and then I'll just immediately drop it and do 35 and then immediately drop it and do a 25 and then immediately drop it and do a 10 and I'm like, and maybe a 5. And I'm doing 50 reps, but it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And I like that for a horn because what you can do is not only are you lifting it, but you're also pressing, you're using outside muscles to kind of press in on the weight to kind of help, which is exactly what we do with the horn. When we start to get a little tired, we start to push in a little bit to kind of help stabilize that. So kind of like, it mirrors the idea of
and
what you're doing.
Lifting one thing that's like
that's stable there. You're not lifting two separate things, which two separate things is good too.
Also trains more stability muscles. Yeah,
right, exactly. But if you're looking for just different ways of doing things, and those are you're going to be done this way, right? Versus this way up and down.
Yeah.
So I love those exercises.
Yeah, and I think this is something we can say for all of them, but I think it's especially pertinent to say here early on and for this particular exercise, right? There's no place for ego lifting in preparedness for drum corps. You are not doing yourself any favor if you grab 30-pound dumbbells and like hip thrust and try and throw them up and then slap them back down without really engaging and risking tearing something in your shoulders as well. Right? Low weight, make sure, look up form videos online. There's just so many resources. There's infinite resources for form videos online that'll tell you what you're doing. Get in front of a mirror. Right, and move a weight that you can actually move.
Right, exactly.
Right? It should feel pretty easy for the first couple of reps.
Yeah,
is a good thing about weight training.
5 to 8 should be like.
You should, as a good general rule, I think for drum corps, if you're doing weight training, aiming for a rep range of 12 to 15.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right,
100%.
Is the best for building strength and a little bit of endurance. Right.
Yep.
We go out and we'll sometimes do heavy lifts where you're doing 3 reps or 5 reps. That's not unhelpful, but it's not really optimized for what we want to do, right? So get a good weight. That means your first 6 reps should feel pretty easy, and then the next 4 should be a little more challenging, and then finally by sets 11 to 15 ish, you feel a good burn.
Right. Yeah, and these things can all start at any weight level. Like I always say, if you're not new to this, or if you are new to this, and you're like, this is really intimidating. There's a lot of things to talk about weights. Don't do them with anything. Just do them with your arms.
Yeah,
right. Just
put your arms out in front,
up and put them down.
Especially if you give it like a little bounce or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Do anything. Grab anything. Right. Grab a textbook.
Grab cinnamon rolls because they look like weights. Right. They're still in the can. You can lift them up and down, or a gallon of milk or something, or whatever else it is. You can kind of
anything. Right.
Anything that's putting a little bit of weight in your hands. It could be anything. Right. So you don't have to go to the gym, pay all those memberships, get dumbbells, be intimidated by other people that are in there, whatever it is that is maybe kind of stopping, or you just don't want to go to the gym. That's fine,
Yeah.
All these things are things that you can do at home, right? So those weights are important.
Yeah. Some other really quick rapid fire kind of shoulder trainings. I think just a good overhead press, right? Any kind of, if you have dumbbells or a barbell or again anything like heavy, you just press upwards. If you want to switch that to calisthenics, you put your feet up on your bed and then go into like almost a handstand to sort of like lower yourself down like that, like you're raising the roof in reverse.
Right.
It's a great way to train those pressing deltoid muscles. Lateral raises, right? There's anything that's like that's taking your arm and moving it upwards in some direction.
Right. I think the important thing to remember, again, if you're new to this idea, is that you should only be moving the joint in one direction.
Yeah.
Right. So you shouldn't be doing things like
right. For
coming up
most
and
exercises,
swirling around and kind of like doing it like this, right? You want to be like your arms moving up and down. You want Frankenstein with those kind of things. If you're on the sides, you're going up and down, right? You're not going above parallel too much. Every now and again, it's a little bit fine, but really you don't have to go much above parallel for most of these things. When you're doing presses, you don't need to be all the way down here to then press all the way up. Like your press can start.
Right, you want to keep it in a nice like tracked motion and not be.
You don't want to go past that section right there. So and you don't have to use a lot of weight, so it shouldn't be too difficult, right? So you focus on the control. And the other thing, we talk about ego lifting. There's a billion studies out there, and if you look at any gym influencers or whatever else is going on out there, is that there's so many studies out there that say you're looking for muscle fatigue, right? You're looking to take the muscle past the point at which it can do more work. Heavy lifting does that faster, right? If I do shoulder presses with 180 pounds, it may only take me 3 or 4 reps to get to where I can't do anymore. Yeah. Or I can do 40 pounds and do 25 of them, but I'm still getting to the part where I cannot do anything more, right? So you're still breaking muscle down and you're tearing the muscle to help build it back up and grow it in an effective way. You can do them both. Just one just takes a little bit longer and a couple more reps.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, for people who don't go to the gym very often or maybe new to lifting and training, it's a healthier way of doing it, right? Because you can limit your risk of injury, right, by doing it that way, right? You
Absolutely.
You don't need to pick up a ton of weight.
Especially if you're a beginner and you're still learning, form stuff.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great, and that applies to everything that we're going to talk about.
Right. That we got real into the detail on the form there because that is a blanket statement for all of the exercises we're going to talk
exactly.
about.
Exactly. So all those shoulder things I think are great. Every single one of them works, right?
Yep.
Oh, the other thing too, you should only be working a muscle group. You should not every day. If you're going to be working them pretty good and they're hurting, you need 3 days. You need 72 hours. 72 hours of recovery before you get into the next thing. I recommend 4 to 5 days personally, but no more. If you can't do shoulders today,
that's if you're hitting them hard.
Yeah,
right?
if you
have a whole day, it's for shoulders.
Yeah, if you're beating them up pretty good, and it's like, hey, your whole day is just shoulders, then I wouldn't touch them again for another 4 days.
I think there is a place for, especially for drum corps preparedness, or if you just do a full body routine, where you're doing 1 or 2 exercises per muscle group, then those you can pretty much hit every day or hit all of them, 3 or 4 days a week.
Yep.
And that'll still, especially if you're a beginner, that'll still give you some pretty good results.
Right. Basically, if you're sore, maybe hold off a day.
Right.
But that's it. You don't have to beat yourself into the ground. Like you should have a little bit of soreness because that's natural.
Let yourself recover a bit.
Yeah, but you need recovery.
You won't have any recovery time on tour. So
you don't get that there.
Use it while you can.
Exactly.
All right.
So moving into back.
Yeah.
Back is basically anything that you pull towards you. That's the easiest way to explain how to train your back and anything else.
Especially there's so many back muscles back there, but especially the ones that you're going to use, right? It's kind of anything that takes a weight from like in front of you to closer in towards you.
Correct. Right. Back, if you are going to the gym, the cables are, I think personally, they're the best thing for you.
I love them. Yeah, that would be my recommendation if you have a cable, right? And you get like any kind of like, I would opt for higher rows.
Yes.
Right.
Yep, totally
cable, not necessarily like a lat pull down that works as sort of different sets, but like the rhomboids and those sort of horizontal pulling ones, right? Getting like a wide high bar and bringing it up to your chest, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 basic, like you can do them single handed or you can do close hand or wide grip. And then same thing with your hands. It's either this way or that way. They kind of work slightly different things. So saying anything overhead where you're pulling straight down, you can come in tight, you can come in wide, you can go out wide with the grip this way.
Yeah.
Every single, like a pull up, every single one of those things does something slightly different. But I agree with you. Anything you're pulling a little bit more higher in the body, that's going to work the upper part of the back, which is what you need to hold horns and what you need to kind of strengthen that part of your body. For me, I tend to go, if you're going to use cable machines and not free weights and anything else, I say this one's okay to go a little bit heavier, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the stability of the cable, right? And the safety of it, right? And because typically when you're going to, like when you're letting it go, it's just going to go away from you, right? Or it's going to go above you. Like you're not you have
You're risking something falling on you.
Yeah, correct. There's less injury risk that's involved in that, right? So, if you're going to overtrain or maybe go a little bit heavier with some of those things, I think this is a good place to go.
I think it's also a good place because your back is probably stronger than you think it is.
It should be. Your back should be one of the strongest parts of your body,
right?
Besides your legs.
It's always the two most common places where people underestimate their own strength is their back and their legs.
You'd be surprised how much you use your back for that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Right. You use your back for pretty much everything.
New people come into the gym and they're like, squatting or, trying to pull 10 pounds on each side. I'm like, I guarantee you get, and it's not a bad idea at first to learn form.
Right.
That's always a good move, right? Try it with weight that's absolutely easy to handle just to get the form down.
Right.
And then add weight. But most of the time, it's like you can be doing more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, like we said, we should be somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, right? So if you're
remove weight and you're like, I could do 50 of these.
Yeah,
you need to be moving it heavier then probably.
Yeah. Which kind of we're talking about calisthenics a little bit, and cardiovascular a little bit more. But if you're not breathing just a little bit heavy, and you're not taxing the heart, and your cardio body because you're moving all this weight or doing whatever you're doing, you probably need to be doing just a little bit more, right? If you're just going through your things, you're like and your arms are noodles and everything is just easy. Yeah, you probably need to be engaging your muscles. Engaging your muscles, but you probably can't engage your muscle because you don't have something heavy enough to do that, right? I would find it very difficult to do like a row with a 2-pound weight. I know how to tighten that muscle group, but I can't imagine what I would get
resistance.
from that.
It's not really.
What am I going to get from that, really? Right? Yeah. I need significant weight from me because I am very strong in that area to be able to make any kind of difference.
Yeah.
Most of your gyms have tons of weight equipment.
So much stuff
that's for the back.
I think two good ones if you're not at a gym, right? One is rear delt flies, which I know I just said delt, right? But the rear delt, those are on the back, and it does definitely engage some of your back muscles, and especially those ones that are used for horns, right? So that you get, again, some light weights. And for this one, I'm talking light weights.
Yeah.
Like I use like 5 for these.
Yeah, they're very hard.
Get those 2.5 pound weights that they use for Pilates that is in every single household in America.
Yeah. Your mom tried to get in shape back in the day. She's got them floating around someplace. Don't worry.
Somewhere. They're around there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or anything that's just like a couple of pounds.
Yeah.
Right? Heck, honestly, this is one that probably you could just do with just your arms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But you just get them, right? You keep your legs like just a little tiny bit bent. You bend over at the waist, right? So you keep your back straight. I'm sure all of the choreographers and dance instructors have told you how to bend at the waist while keeping your back straight.
Correct.
You do that, and then you just sort of go out in an outward motion like that.
Yep.
Right. It'll feel like a good burn.
Yeah,
in there.
and you should feel pinching in your shoulder blades just slightly, as they open and close.
Yeah, not a pinching pain motion, but the act of your shoulder blades.
Just kind of shoulder blades, just kind of flowing
Squeezing
in on
together.
themselves, right?
Yep.
And when you're doing those, especially if you're not doing any weight, hold it up there for a couple seconds. Any one of these exercises that we're talking about.
That's the front delts is a great one for that as well.
Any one of these exercises that we're talking about, if you're going to go lower weights, which is totally fine. Please go lower weights if you're feeling uncomfortable or you're not feeling comfortable with it. But do it, and instead of just flailing through them, right, and doing whatever, you pull back and you hold it.
Hold it for a second.
I
do it with all of my lateral raises.
Right? Give it a good 2 count. 1, 2, and then relax.
Yeah.
Relax the muscle, come back up. 1, 2, right? Because what are you going to be doing with your horn the entire summer? You're going to be holding it up.
In place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're just doing all the things, you're training your body to act in the way that you want it to act for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all really, really great, tips for those kind of things.
All right. All right, I think we're pretty good on shoulders and back. I think.
I mean, really, same thing. Like if I had to choose 2 groups, that would be the 2 that the only 2 that I would work. But if you said you can only do 2 things before you went on tour, those are the only 2 things I would do. I would do shoulders and back. As a horn player, that's it. Because my legs will get up underneath me eventually, and I think if I worked hard enough, I could get the cardio that I needed out of it. So, those are my opinions. Those are my things. Those are the things that always and forever. Like I said, I'm a big guy. They hurt every single weekend. Every time. And I'm playing mellophone now. It's not heavy, right? I'm 6'3", 250 pounds. There's zero reason why I should be struggling to carry a mellophone.
It's all just length of time endurance. Right?
That's all it is.
Well, and also the curse for both of us is the more that we train, the bigger our arms get, the more weight our arms are.
Yeah, just the more weight in front of you exists. It's
I
true.
remember Lydia was doing so I kept doing like, oh, do you guys' arms hurt? And I was like, Lydia, my arms weigh twice as much as yours. So you'll have to forgive me if they get sore a little bit faster holding them up.
I said that. She said that too. She's like, it's just a ground roll. And I was like, you weigh 110 pounds. I'm like,
Don't tell me it's just a ground roll.
I'm like, I'm a foot taller than you, and I'm literally twice the man that you are, in size, and then some. I was like, this is a little harder to get back up.
Yeah. Again, right? Know thyself.
Yeah, right.
And your physical limits.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's those are the two ones that are most in detail. Some quick greatest hits on some other muscle groups that are helpful, right?
Chest.
Same with upper body. Yeah. Chest, I think is a great one because you use that a little bit when you're holding your horn up. If you have to, hold a plank, which is a very common thing in shows, right? Or catch yourself or move or push something.
Right.
Which is going to be helpful, right?
Depending on what core you go to, you get, you get educated through push-ups, sometimes.
I think they're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, sure they aren't,
Yeah.
So,
great exercise to do for that. Any kind of flat dumbbell press, any kind of chest press machine, chest fly. Easiest and most accessible possible thing you could do is push-ups.
Yep, totally agree.
And this one's right. Push-ups are a great little sort of check into your upper body strength, right? If you are solid with push-ups, and I'm talking you probably want your arms out a little bit, right? They're harder if you put your arms in, but then they work the triceps more. And like we said, triceps aren't as important, right? If you can do some solid push-ups, then that means you're in a pretty good place. If you try them out, you go to push-ups and you really just can't do one, or you can get 2 maybe, and you burn out, right? That's okay. That means that you've now got a good gauge of where you are, and that's something you need to work on, right? In the same way that we say, don't be afraid of of going down to lower weights. For push-ups, don't be afraid to go out on your knees.
Yeah.
Keep your body nice and straight, right? It decreases that amount of leverage and the amount of weight that you're moving.
Yep.
And crank some of those out. And maybe on your knees, you can get 5 push-ups, right? And then now right? And then you come back, 2 days later, you try them out, and then maybe that time you can get 6, and maybe the next time you get 7. And once you get up to maybe 15 of those, then you can try, okay, well, how many can I do, with my feet on the ground this time? Right? That's a great sort of incremental check-in method, right?
100%.
That each day you come back and you try to beat the number that you got last time.
Yeah, and it's so important that the push-up works so much of the body that you don't realize. Everybody's like, oh, my arms and my shoulders and my back. And absolutely, you know what it does? It works core. It works legs. It works your hip flexors. It works all things. It's a really versatile exercise. But it's only
lots of calisthenics movements are.
Yeah. But it's only good if you do it correctly, right? And you're using it to its fullest extent. Yeah. So, one of the things you definitely need to do, and I recommend this for anybody, even if you're I do the greatest push-ups ever known to man. And I do very good push-ups myself personally. I know that I do. And I still, every now and again, I'll throw a camera down, right? And then record myself doing it to make sure that, my butt's not too high in the air, or that am I really aboard the way I think I am?
Or am I aboard and lowering yourself,
what's going on? Am I lowering myself evenly, or am I worming as I'm going down, right?
Or am I, pushing, arching up a little bit to get that initial push?
A lot of times people will go down and they'll kind of they'll warm up or they'll warm down. There's a lot of different things you want to do, but you want to be aboard and just go like this. Right, it's up and down. Right. There should be no movement from the heel all the way up to the shoulder blades. Just straight back, straight back legs, the whole 9 yards. So if you can't do those correctly, that's okay. That's totally fine. You need to assess that. You need to know that you're doing something wrong. And then
when you fix your form, it will probably be harder.
Oh, it's going to be way harder. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But usually that's often a sign that it's harder because I'm engaging more of the muscles that I actually need to.
Yeah, because you're finally. The other thing too is that you end up being easier for other muscle groups because you're not overcompensating for things that you've been undercompensating for, right? If you have your butt up in the air, you're not using a lot of core because you're doing that. But that also means you're putting a lot of leverage down on your shoulders and your arms and your chest. So it's harder to do a push-up that way. Whereas if you can just bring that core down and engage the core, now all of a sudden the push-up actually becomes a slightly bit easier for the upper body to do the work. Because the midsection is taking care of a good bit of your weight now, right? Rather than it being all pinched up and you're trying to dive bomb. Push-ups are great, and they're very easy to build incrementally, right? You pick a number, you do them, and then you just try to beat that number every single time.
Yeah,
that's all it is, and you can do them all day long. You can do I used to tell people all the time. Again, I was in the Army for a long time, and I was a fitness trainer for a little bit of that time, and anytime I had to train people that were struggling with the push-ups, it was always like, look, you're going to do them 3 to 4 times a week, and you're going to do them anytime, like guys would work in my office and be like, are you guys going outside for a cigarette? 20. And like you just do 20, like, okay, see you guys, go enjoy yourself, whatever, or you're going to lunch. Hey, you got to pay to go to lunch. You got to pay to come back in, baby. Pay the fee, baby. 10 and 10, that's it. 10. And if you do that all day long and you end up at 100 to 150 push-ups, but you only ever did like 5 to 10 of them at one time, any given time, right? You just chop them down. And as long as you're doing them correctly, the muscle will break down. It'll build throughout the day. And you don't have to do 1,000 at one time, right? You can just chop them up, and it takes like 10 push-ups doesn't take you more than 15, 20 seconds, right? It's really a very minimal exercise, right? If you do them real slow and real good, maybe 30 seconds,
Slow negatives.
Yeah, it was great for you. And also, too, if you don't want to do push-ups because you're struggling with them and that's something that's difficult for you, do planks. Planks are incredible. Planks are incredible for core.
Yep, and they'll work your chest and your shoulders a little bit, and then they'll train core, which I think is another super important muscle group.
Yeah, core.
Right? Core. Right. Use it for breathing and playing, for keeping yourself elevated during marching, for doing lots and lots, basically any kind of dance thing or stability thing.
Yep.
It's constantly being engaged.
Yeah.
It's also the suite of exercises that is like the easiest to do. Right? Planks, sit-ups, crunches, oblique twists, leg raises, right? Any of those require, with the exception of leg raises, pretty much requires zero equipment. Yeah. Maybe somewhere to hook your feet into. And that's it.
Yeah. And the same thing with core. If you're struggling to do any one of those things, you do one of those things a little bit, right? So if you can't do sit-ups, you can't get a full sit-up in, come up to the sit-up position, however you push yourself up, and then just slowly lower yourself down.
Yeah, and try and control how fast you fall down. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Try and not fall back as you lower yourself.
Push yourself back up again, get up in there, and then you keep just doing backwards. So just do them in reverse, basically. It's the same thing with a push-up. Get in a plank, and if you can't push back up, that's okay. Slowly lower yourself down, relax the body, get your hands back into position, and push yourself back up. So you're not not wasting energy, but you're not engaging as much energy through each motion. You're not trying to do up and down. You're just doing one or the other. So you have a full, capacitor of energy to kind of push or pull or do whatever it is you're doing. And those kind of things really help build strength over time, right? And it's always important to remember too, especially in the age of social media and all the things going on, these things are not things that happen overnight. They take,
absolutely.
You'll do them for the next 8 weeks and you still will not be where you think you're going to be. But you'll be way further than where you were if you did nothing. Right?
Oh yeah.
So I think core is always a good place to transition. And notice that we didn't talk about arms one time, right? Through any of these exercises. And that's because every exercise that we talked about, guess what you have to use in order to freaking do the exercise?
Right.
Your arms.
Yeah.
Right.
Any kind of pulling motion for your back, you're engaging the biceps a little bit.
Yep.
And kind of pushing motion for your chest or for overhead press, you're engaging your triceps.
Yep.
They
it's
really,
getting in there.
Again, we work them
right.
for vanity reasons.
Exactly.
Right. But you really don't have to work them in order to get them into a functional spot for what you need for drum corps.
Yeah, you really don't. And if anything else too, I find that you risk a little bit of injury doing that because you're doing a lot of wear on the elbow. And
elbow and like the tendons and joints in there.
Yeah, and you want them to be healthy going into the season because you're going to be doing a lot of holding anyway.
Lots,
so
and like we said, much less recovery time.
Exactly. So anyway, let's move into the cardio bit a little bit and talk just kind of where we are on that. I am not. You need to have some level of cardio before you go into the season.
I think cardio is a very helpful thing to build. I think it's less important than we often default it to be.
Yes,
I think it's still something you should definitely train.
Right? For me, cardio there's two different types of people who do cardio. People who can turn their brains off and just run, and people who stress about running every single time they start to run. I am fine. Like I've run a half marathon. I've done the Army 10 miler like a dozen times. So I can run. I hate every second of it. I can't stand it.
I hate running.
I can't stand running. Some people are just like, and they just go, right? The Kios of the world. And
Runners High, I think Runners High is a collective fever dream that runners have invented to justify their own hobby.
Yeah, exactly. You get out of here, Runners High.
You tell me I just need to run more and then I'll like it?
Oh, great.
Yeah, that sounds like sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. So now that being said, if you're a good runner and you enjoy running, please keep running. Obviously,
power to you.
Yeah,
Couldn't be me.
good for you, man. But if you do struggle with that, and you are somebody that needs a little bit of if you're huffing and puffing after just doing a few minutes of basic stuff around there,
or who's mentally miserable after doing it,
right? Exactly. There are many things, like you said, if we're all the lifting stuff we just talked about, if you just do that with a sense of urgency and clear intent through that, you should be getting some good cardio through that, right? Number one.
I absolutely think that if you just strength train, your cardio and like your mile time, right, or whatever, however you want to measure that, will get better and stronger.
I lift,
your heart and your lungs get better.
I lift every day and I sweat during my lift.
Yeah.
Because I'm lifting with intention, right? I am going after it. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to keep my heart rate up while I'm doing that because I want the blood flow through all those things. So you can do that, right? If you are not a strong runner and is not a good, those things, I use the 3-2 rule, right? Is that you should be, if you're walking, you should be walking with intention somewhere around the 15-minute mile-an-hour pace, right? Mm-hmm. You should be doing that for 3 times the length of your show. If your show is 11 minutes, you should be doing it for 33 minutes. If your show is 10 minutes, you should be doing it for 30 minutes. And that's aggressive walking, right? I mean, it's you're
this
going.
means 2-3, right? 2 miles maybe. At a walking pace, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3.5. Well, so it would be about almost, because I would say 3.5 miles an hour to 4 miles an hour on the treadmill is an aggressive
walk. It's a good
power
walk.
Yeah, it's a very good power walk. You should be able to do that. If you're running, you should be able to run or jog, whatever it is, probably a 6-minute pace, or not a 6-minute pace, a 6 mile an hour. Just
6 mile an hour is a 10-minute pace.
Which is a 10-minute pace. You should be able to do that for 2 times your show length. So if your show is 11 minutes long, you should be doing it with 22 minutes. Right, because that's going to give you the start and the stop and all the other nonsense in between. Because let's be fair, even our 10-minute shows are not 10 minutes, right? They start before and they kind of last a little bit afterwards from all the energy and everything, effort that you have to put into it. So, getting to a point where you can do that, I think, is your goal. If you are a little bit on the heavier side, maybe you're still struggling, the joints are hurting, those other things. Start with the walk. Right, I walk for 30 minutes.
Super good for you and your heart health. Yeah.
I walk for 30 minutes every single day before I lift. Every single day, I walk for 30 minutes. I walk at like a 3.75 to 4 mile an hour pace on the treadmill, and I'm just like, I'm getting into it, right? And I get a little sweaty, I get a little moving. I do about, I don't know, like I said, almost 2 miles, and then I'm good. Okay, cool. That's my cardio for the day. And then sometimes if I'm feeling frosty, I'll break into a little bit of a jog, and I'll get like a mile run into it. But I never go much more than 6 miles an hour, right? Some of that is because I'm heavier right now than I want to be. So I know it's going to put a little bit more punishment on my body. I'm a little older, right? So again,
you gotta be careful about joint health.
Yeah, joint health and just overall, like, how many more years, do I want to keep walking? I mean, running is really good for you for longevity, but also you just got to be careful while I'm doing all these other things. So I leave cardio second because you're going to get so much of it on tour. So
you are going to get so much of it.
If you do a 30-minute walk every single day, and then maybe a little bit for 2 weeks, and then a little jog for 10 to 15 minutes every single day, 2 weeks leading up to move in or to your camp weekends, I think it's fine. I think you should be fine at that point. And then the rest of it is mental after that. The rest of it's just a mental game. It's how focused are you going to be when you're huffing and puffing and the lungs are burning and everything hurts? Can you keep fighting? Right, because that's all running really is. It's just fighting through the mental boredom of going back and forth.
Which usually you don't have much mental boredom during a show.
Right, exactly.
But I think setting those goals for like just power walking and being able to set that is a great thing for people that are really just like trying to get to a baseline level of survivability for this season, right?
Yep, absolutely. That gives you the baseline to get into camp.
Yeah, right, and make sure that you're just going to be able to make it through.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you are fairly, if you're healthy and fit enough to be running, right, then you can use, say, mile times as a good sort of indicator or benchmark, right? Because obviously people, they can jog, it's fine, but if they try and run really, they're going to get tired out quickly.
Right.
And the real tricky thing about drum corps is it's such a mix of cardio, endurance, and bursts.
Right.
Because the show itself is usually a lot of like kind of quick bursts of energy, right?
Start
You're not
stops.
really just moving back and forth at an even pace, right? You're sprinting for a few sets and stopping, then you're doing some cardio, and then you're like moving a prop, say, and then you're doing some, crazy choreo stuff, and then you're running more, right? And it's short little bursts of energy.
Right.
Right. So just focusing, right, getting your mile time, right? Either, jogging for 20 minutes, like you said, but, focusing on like, okay, can I run a mile in 12 minutes? Right. That'd be a good baseline. If you can't run a mile in 12 minutes, you probably should be approaching that goal,
right?
Because you might still make it, right? You'll survive the season.
You're gonna struggle,
but yeah, exactly, right? It's like a quality of life thing.
That's a very slow pace, right? A 12-minute pace is like a 10-minute pace. I think personally that should be your absolute goal.
Yeah,
if you can't, because that's a jog. A jog is a 10-minute.
Yeah, that's 6 miles an hour, which is a good.
It's just a little.
Yeah,
and you should, and that should be a talking pace. You should be able to have a conversation with somebody at that rate. That should be your goal, right? Is to get to that general thing. And then again, always varies, right? People of different ages, people of different skill sets,
different strides.
Yeah, different. Right? Like again, there's some people, there's some people who are 5'2", and there's some people who are 6'3", right?
Yeah, they have to take twice as many steps as you to get that mile.
So it's a little bit different, right? So you got to be in there. Again, these are all just baseline concepts, but you do need to have a goal of where to get to for again, I think your sanity going into there.
That's exactly what I was going to
say. If you can't do a 12-minute mile, what can I do?
I mean, there's a structured way. Jack has a good question, right? Of if you can't do a 12-minute mile, right, or if you can't do a 10-minute mile, how do you get there?
Right.
First of all, I think doing some high intensity training other than running will get your heart strength up. Right, training your legs and your full body and things like that will just increase your cardiovascular endurance. Right. If you are trying to make it to that 12 or 10-minute mile, right, just set it at a 5 or 6 minute, 5 or 6 mile per hour pace. Go for 7 minutes, and then 7 minutes, you're like, oh my, I'm like super high heart rate. I need to calm down here. Then push it back down to 3 and finish out the mile.
Right.
And next time, try to make it to 8 minutes, right, and then to 9, so you can get a 10-minute mile, and then trying to shave time off of that, or see if you can go for 15 minutes with it. Another really good thing that we'll sort of talk about, and this can retroactively apply to weights too, because I definitely want to mention this, is like interval training.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Set the treadmill for a 7 or 8 mile an hour run, but only do that for like 1 minute. Then go back down to like 3 and walk it out for 2 minutes. Then go back up to 8. Right, for another minute, right? Because that trains those bursts of really high energy, right? More of like a run than a jog.
Right.
That we kind of need for our show and for rehearsal, right? Because rehearsal, you're not running the whole time.
Right.
You're standing there. They say set, and then you have to run for your life for 20 seconds,
right,
and then stop and go it, and then do it again over and over and over and over again.
That was what I was going to say. And when Jack asked the question, how do I get to a 12-minute mile? Right. I break it down into quarters. Right. Hopefully, and maybe you can even go down to the tenths, or maybe fifths, I guess you want to call it that. So a quarter of a 12-minute mile is 3 minutes, right? So whatever the pace is to be a 12-minute mile, I think it's 4.5 miles an hour.
I think it's 5.
Is it 5?
Yeah.
So 5 miles an hour is 12. 5. Okay. So if it's 5 miles an hour, it's fine. So you're going to run.
5, yeah.
You're going to run on the treadmill at a 5 mile an hour pace for 3 minutes, and then you're going to break it down to a walk. Right, a 3 mile an hour walk, and then you're going to walk for 3 minutes, right? And that should be enough for you to gain your heart rate and settle back down. And then when you hit that 3 minute mark again, you're going to bump it back up, and you're going to run again for 3 more minutes, right? So you're breaking your 12-minute mile down into achievable chunks, right?
Yeah.
And that could be any achievable chunk that you want it to be, right? A mile is 1,600 meters. Run. I don't even know how the math would break down on that, but run 100-meter dashes at the pace you need to run, and then walk 100 meters, and then run 100 meters, and then walk 100. You're going to end up, no matter how you do it, you'll probably end up doing about 1.5 miles to 2 miles. So you're getting more in, and you will get the 12-minute mile. It'll just be chunked up a little bit. Then the next time, do it in thirds. Do a 4-minute run and a 4-minute off, and then a 4-minute run, and then break it down to a 6-minute run, and then hopefully you can build up to the part where you are running a 12-minute mile at whatever point, right? And the goal is setting up that schedule for yourself and going in with that idea, because achieving goals is super important just to the mental part of the training, right? Is knowing that you can achieve these things, right? And you're like, hey, if I can do this, that means I can do that, right? So those are always good. And that fits right into the intensity training, right? Where it's a little bit of intensity based off of your skill set, where you are physically, and then you're going to relax a little bit. You're going to just lower the intensity, and then you're going to go back into the high intensity again, and you're going to lower it again. So you're just going back and forth, really, what it is. And setting up, again, specific goals for your day, whatever those goals may be, right? If the 10-minute mile is your goal or the 12-minute mile is your goal, like you sit down and just do the math and figure it all out and figure out what to do to get yourself where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. To the ebbing and flowing, do you have much more to say about cardio stuff?
I was going to say one more thing, but it's probably not cardio related, so continue.
Okay. Because the varying levels of intensity is, I think, a great segue. We can bring up a workout plan and structure that I don't usually do, but I'm a huge proponent of it, which is HIIT training, HIIT, high intensity interval training. Right. Essentially, the whole HIIT in general, the whole idea is kind of what we were just talking about: high intensity on, then low intensity off for a specific amount of time off, then high intensity on, low intensity off. Right. This could mean, you see a lot of like weightlifting programs like this that are like, hey, for 60 seconds, just do as many of these reps with good form as you can. Yep. And then you take a 60 seconds off and you rest, right? And then you do 60 seconds again on that exercise or something else, right? Or, 60 on, 30 off. There's lots of different variations. I implore you that these are really great programs because, one, they're usually pretty short, right? You're getting
like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. You're usually getting your workout done in a pretty reasonable amount of time.
Correct.
They often don't use a ton of equipment, right? And they're really, really good for your heart health if you do them right? That varying intensity levels are really good at taxing the body in a way that gets results.
Yeah.
And I think applies, like I said, directly to our activity.
Yeah.
Right. So go out, just look online for some high HIIT, right? Those HIIT training, full body workout.
Yeah.
Look for one, right? Because if you look that up, you might find a lot that are like 90% lower body. Look around, poke around. If you want to gauge, just look for ones that include at least some upper body stuff, some shoulders and some chest things, right? Usually, all you need for these is like a pair of dumbbells, right? And that will give you a great program, right? To run, and that'll really help you out in achieving your goals. And it's really easy also within those to get right to track progress, right?
Yeah.
If you have a 60 on, 30 off, right? You start doing it and you flame out at 40 seconds.
Then
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And then the next time you try to aim for 45, the next time you try to aim for 50 seconds, more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's a super, super versatile and great, style of workout that I think is really good for drum core. And I think it's ones that a lot of physical trainers employ at drum core.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've been talking about all these different things, right? And I think there's three things I'll add to it. Number one is an equipment thing. Don't forget that bands are a great little tool.
Super helpful. Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of money to spend, you can't go to the gym. You're a college dorm, whatever it is. Bands roll up nice and tight and put them in a little bag. You can pull them out and you can use them to do all kinds of different exercises.
Great resistance training.
Great resistance training for you. So that's number one. Number two, make sure that I think it's super important to have what we call an accountability buddy, right? So through all this process or everything you're doing, it may not be somebody you're going to. If you have somebody you can go to the gym with, great. That's great. Even better, right? And it doesn't have to be somebody you're going to go march with or somebody that's in drum corps. Like maybe it could be your parent, brother, sister, whatever it is. Like somebody that's just going to go, hey man, we're going today, right? And you go, yeah, I guess we are. Because somebody being reliant on you or you relying on somebody else really kind of keeps the flow going, right?
When you send them a message and be like, "Hey, I'm hitting chest today," or "I'm hitting, I'm on the treads today."
Yeah. We say this all the time. Like you're my accountability buddy for most of the time. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
Nothing's going to stop us. Like if I don't message you, I know you're going to the gym
we're
anyway.
Go to the gym anyway.
For us, I think it's more bragging, but like it's fun to have like a partner that you're like, "Hey, look at what I'm doing."
Makes it a shared experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really important for that growth. And the last piece is whatever you're doing, like what you're doing. Right. So you kind of have to go and test some of these things out. If you don't, I deplore HIIT training. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I never, even when I was in great shape in my late 20s, early 30s, I never really liked it that much. I'm very much an old school bodybuilder kind of lifter, person. I like steady cardio. I like lifting. Those are kind of where my things, and I do them because I enjoy them. Do I do HIIT training occasionally? I try to weave it in very seldomly, though. I do it
every once in a while.
Yeah. but I know it's important. Honestly, drum corps is kind of my hit training. It's kind of where I get that.
We kind of get that.
Yeah, I kind of get that there. But whatever it is you're choosing to do, go do it. Like I know people who just love CrossFit. Like it's their job to love CrossFit. Good for you, man. They can't lift any weights in gyms anywhere, but they can throw things all over the place and hip thrusts and do weird pull-ups and all kinds of things. It's great. Good for you guys.
Yeah, right.
They love it. Cool. That's what you should be doing then because you love it, right?
Any level of activity that gets your heart rate up and puts a healthy strain on your body is going to be helpful, right? We talk about how lifting super heavy or just running super long distances, right? Or some of them are not optimized for drum corps,
right?
But if you love doing that, right? If you love being a long distance runner, then keep up with that, right? Because any amount of activity is still going to help.
Yep, it's going to benefit.
Right?
Yep, absolutely. 100%.
It's such an all-around activity, drum corps, that no matter what, it's going to benefit, right?
Yeah.
We're mostly talking about either tweaking your program a bit to help you a little more if you're already exercising to some degree, or if you're a completely new beginner, right? Engaging in in these kinds of strength training things.
Exactly. So that I think will lead us into our last little piece here because we've been going on for a good bit about this stuff. But I think I think nutrition needs to be just something that we talk about. First off,
it's mentioned.
There's a billion things out there about nutrition, right? Everybody has different dietary needs. Everybody different likes when it comes to food, everything else too. But I think we were talking about this earlier. That the diet world has not changed in 100 years. Like everybody understands how to.
That's the big secret about nutrition is we kind of already figured out
all of it.
Most of the broad strokes.
Exactly. Yeah. All the big things you need, it's kind of already there. So,
right. And all the new stuff that you see, right, and get a fad diet or anything like that.
Right.
They're mostly just trying to sell you on the idea that they have somehow cracked the code.
Right.
Because the real code that we don't like to hear is that you just have to eat healthy in the ways that we all know are healthy, and that isn't very fun and takes discipline.
Yep, that's it.
Right?
Yeah,
Which sucks, but it also means the answer is easy, even if getting to it isn't
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bottom line is for those of you maybe who just haven't learned this yet in life too. Like if you want to gain weight, you need more calories. If you want to lose weight, you need less calories. I mean, that's really the bottom line to it, right?
Yep.
If you want to gain healthy mass, if you're trying to gain weight, if you're on the smaller side of things, you need more proteins. Even if you're on the bigger side of things, you want to gain more muscle, you need more proteins.
Yeah,
you just need less calories.
If you're working out, if you're exercising in any way, you probably need more protein than you're intaking just by default.
Yep, correct. Right.
That's why protein has blown up so much recently.
Yeah.
Right. It's
because we are on a protein deficiency in most of the things that we eat.
Yeah. Right? And then if you want to be fit in this world, you have to increase your protein intake, and companies got wind of that, and they're not going to advertise it to you all the time. But it's advertised to you for good reason.
Yeah.
Because that's helpful.
Yeah. It's the number one thing to add into your diet that you don't have. There's two things you should add into your diet, right? From a nutrition standpoint. Is one, you should add in protein, any kind of protein, whether that's a shake or if that's more healthy, proteins like chicken or fish or anything else like that too. Tuna fish and chicken are the two best things you want to do. And take out any sugary drinks. Yeah. Anything caffeine or not caffeine is not necessarily bad for you, but soda.
Yeah,
Cokes,
sugary caffeine drinks,
right. Carbonated type stuff. It's really horrible for you. And for those of you who are of age,
probably alcohol.
Yeah, the alcohol thing is you just got to get rid of it. For nothing else.
Cut it down. It's a lot of calories that aren't helpful.
There's so many empty calories. And that's for us older people who are still trying to do all age activity.
Yeah,
we definitely need to I almost go for the most part pretty cold turkey through the summertime because I can't even if I have a libation at the end of the drum corps day, I wake up the next day and I feel bloated and puffy and like swore because I'm just doing so much activity and it's not worth whatever it is I'm doing to make my body feel crappy, as we move forward.
Yeah.
So
again, it's all stuff that we know.
Yeah, it's not hard stuff.
You should up your protein a bit through lean protein sources. You should cut down on sugar, cut down on stuff with high fructose corn syrup, right? Because that stuff is awful.
Yeah.
Right? Cut down on grease or really fatty fried things, right? On excessive amounts of red meat.
Yep. Nobody believes McDonald's is good for them. However, you keep eating it.
Yeah, right.
And I am
we
number
all know.
one.
Yeah.
I crush McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
It's so bad for you. But it's 100% true. That's it, right? And things,
more fruits and vegetables, right?
Fibers.
Exactly, right?
You want your
stuff
fibers,
high in fiber.
Oats. Oh, and the other thing too, I think one of the things that people say a lot or that you hear a lot, which is stay away from carbs. You need carbs.
Oh yeah,
you need them. And going on tour and the volume of crap that you're going to have to eat to just stay functional on tour is a whole different conversation. Before we do this thing, if you're going to start working out, you do need a little bit of extra, carbs in your day, whether that, and
if you look at any like super fit person who is exercising a lot, they're eating more carbs than protein in terms of grams.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Because you do need carbs for long-term storage, right? Any diet that tells you to completely cut out an entire macromolecule is full of crap.
Yeah.
You should not listen to them.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, there's the carnivore diet and all those other things too. Like they are functional in a way, but they're also they're not necessary, right? It's all about mitigate, or it's all about what's the M word I'm looking for? Holy crap.
Meeting out?
I don't know. No, it's all about organizing the amount that you're eating. You're not overeating anything. Moderation. Jeez, oh man, good night.
You said mediation. It was so close. My brain was like,
yeah, it's all about moderation and all those things, right? You can't eat. I guess you could eat nothing but vegetables, but even the vegans out there and the vegetarians that are out there, they have to supplement with some type of protein, right? Or they're getting it from somewhere, like things like nuts and soy milks and everything else too. So while you're out there, while you're doing those things, look for things that say high protein. They're good for you. One of the best things out there, and it's funny. I've been saying this for years, and now I see a lot of influencers talking about it, is the Fairlife milk. That Fairlife protein milk, those chocolate milks, everything else too. You mix it in with like whatever it is you're eating. Like, mix it in with your cereal in the morning. Like, also get rid of cereal; it's terrible for you. But
yeah, pretty much
cereal is just horrible for you.
Yeah.
It's absolutely atrocious. But like you mix it with your oatmeal, you can mix it in with your coffee in the morning or whatever it is you're doing. But it's a pretty good source of protein. And it's a pretty lean milk too. Even though it's a cow's milk. So if you're not into those types of milks, then there's other things like soy and everything else that are available to you. But you want to stay towards things that are just like that. It's not rocket science.
That's the thing, right? It is broad strokes simpler than people often make it out to be.
And
but it's not so simple that it's just a one answer catch all.
Yeah.
Right, which is often what those diets are trying to do, and they're like, just cut out carbs. You're like, your brain runs on glucose. Right. You need carbs.
And for those of you at home too, like we do have young kids that still live at home with their parents, and other people are at colleges that are on meal plans. And
you're maybe a little restricted with what you can eat.
Yeah, the best thing to do is just be mindful of it, right?
Yeah, right. If
mom and dad bring home Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's fried food. Maybe take the fried part off the top if you're really trying to be a little healthy, or maybe instead of eating the entire
dab
bucket,
the grease off your pizza.
Yeah, or
just if you're in the food hall, just notice, be like,
stop putting ranch all over your pizza.
The chicken option is probably more helpful than the pizza option, right? If you're at a food hall, right?
Yep.
Very often, especially because when we talk about nutrition, that's why we kept it short. It's not. You're not going to be have a world-changing diet change before you go on tour, probably.
Yeah, we're not giving you any world-breaking information.
Most of the information, most of the benefit you're going to get will come if you just are a little more cognizant.
That's it.
Right? You just are a little more aware and you go,
super simple.
I'm looking at these, even though I want this thing more, this other option is probably the healthier one. So I'm trying to get in shape for the very demanding activity that I'm going to be doing.
Absolutely.
So let me pick option B.
Yeah, and if you're worried about price, I guarantee you with 100% certainty that eating healthy is cheaper than eating any other way. And
if you're smart about how you approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like I don't spend more than $15 a day, maybe, on all three of my meals. To
buy in bulk.
I'm buying. I'm definitely. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to the gas station and spending $15. I can't. You can't do that, right? For all my all agers out there that are driving to camps every weekend, a little bit of prep goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right. Like you buy those Greek yogurts and they're like $6 for a pack of 4. Yeah, it seems like a little expensive, but it's only $1.75.
It's $1.50 per.
Dollar. Yeah, thank you. Jeez, oh man, how. That's a very easy math thing I screwed up. It's $1.50 per, right? That's my breakfast. Cool. And then maybe a cup of coffee, in the morning if I have coffee at home, or even if I buy a cup of coffee while I'm out. So I spent $3 on breakfast, you know what I mean? And then, a chicken breast, if you buy a pack of chicken breasts, it's like $10 to $11 for 5 of them. So again, $2 for a piece of chicken. 1 chicken breast is more than enough for a meal. and then a little bit of rice. A bag of rice is $7.
Yeah.
And, you can make 20 cups of rice. You can make a month's worth of rice with a bag. So, like, you can really mitigate.
Rice is a great example of good carbs.
Yeah. And brown rice over white rice. And that's the other thing, too, is like you have good carbs and you have better carbs that are in the same carb category, right?
Yeah, right.
Potatoes.
Switch to whole wheat bread instead of white bread. Switch to sweet potatoes. I know you love instead of white.
Yeah, I just got into sweet potatoes recently. I was not a sweet potato fan, but like I figured out how to make them right now. They're amazing, and they're so much better for you than regular potatoes. Yeah. So, they're a huge filler.
Yeah. So I think last thing that I think we wanted to mention on nutrition, you kind of have to judge what your nutritional intake before camp is, before moving is going to be based on, where you are in your goals, right?
Right.
If you are a pretty normal weight, just focus on switching to a few healthier options. Yep. You'll probably just feel better.
If nothing else, just get the sugars out.
Yeah, right.
I would just remove that.
Sugars and greasy foods, right?
You're good. Because you're not going to have any of that on tour anyway. Not much of it anyway.
We had some sugary cereals for breakfast every morning.
Yeah, but that's it. If you're not drinking 12
sodas
a
usually.
day.
It's that and the jelly from the PB&J.
Right. So that's a little bit of sugar. I just mean like things like you're not even getting close to that in the can of Coke. Take it out. So.
All right, do that. If you're say a little heavier and you want to like lose a little bit of weight, again, I think we said like it's really, I don't think it's that big of a problem to be going in a little heavy into spring training, because you will be burning more calories than you can possibly put in your body.
If anything else, you'll be happy that you have the extra weight, just from a functional standpoint.
But one of the biggest things is there's a lot of people I think are going to drum corps and are pretty skinny and small. I think oftentimes you have to be eating more.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. I think too often we associate being skinny with being fit.
Right.
Right. But oftentimes, especially for an activity that requires strength, it really means you don't have enough muscle mass. You don't have enough power.
Right.
Right. So you are probably in a safer place to put on, to add a little and have a bit of a calorie surplus, especially if you're doing training.
Yeah.
Right. If you're doing training and you're not eating enough, it's wasted energy.
Right.
Right. So right. Be smart about it. Eat some, use lean, high protein options, right? That don't have high sugars or high, a lot of grease or tons of preservatives or anything.
Right.
Right. But more than likely, you can probably afford to put on a few pounds before, as long as they're healthy pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Pounds are pounds. Honestly, at this rate, moving into camp 2 months out, at this rate, I think any pounds are good pounds personally, unless you're on the much heavier side, where you're already 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. Like, you obviously don't want to be putting on more weight there. But if you're in the normal range, I would put you in the normal range, right? Or if you're in like the very lean range, which I am not in, I'm not even close to that.
You used to be.
I was. That's very true.
Bean.
I was very small. If you're in those ranges, you like putting on just a few extra pounds. This shouldn't be fat pounds, but like muscle.
Don't eat a tub of lard.
Don't just be eating bacon every day trying to pack on weight. But if you're in those ranges, just go ahead and if you're gaining a few pounds going into there, I think it's totally fine.
And usually that just means take the healthy things and just have a little bit of a bigger portion size.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Don't be like or just
don't eat McDonald's 3 times a day.
Or go and get some of the masking powder that they've got.
Yeah, right.
It's like, hey, 50 grams of protein and 1,200 calories.
Yeah, it's insane. So anyway, I think that's good for the thing. Well, I hope that, and I did it again. I do it all the time. I never look at the camera and go, hey, put some stuff in the comments about what you think. Yeah. I'm hoping that as you were going through this episode that you kind of were like, oh, I know this exercise, I know this thing, this is how I feel about these things. You go ahead and put a comment. If you haven't yet, go ahead and put it in there. We love hearing from you. I respond to you even if it's poor grammar every single time. And, I talk to you guys and I try to engage with you as an audience as often as I can, and I enjoy doing it. So get down there, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the cool things that you normally are supposed to do. And I think that's good. We're looking forward to the next part of the season.
Yeah. Then once we start getting more into the season, right? Once actually we get some show title drops and some form drops, we're gonna have lots of more frequent content as the season ramps up. But for now, do all the usual stuff. Go to the Patreon, right? Donate to that. Be on the lookout for scholarship information and for all the fun, cool things that we're gonna be doing in the future. But until then, we will see you next time OfCycle.